I'm Erin Lawler-Patterson, the Goodness Chick. I'm a podcaster, motivational speaker, author, counselor, and proud part of the Mental Health News Radio Network. Join me on the journey of navigating the joys and pitfalls of life, addressing mental health, addiction, raising kids, and giving back. If it takes a village, then join me as one of those villagers. Villagers wanted. So I'm not sure what you know about CBD oil, but I will tell you, whether it be depression, whether it be anxiety, whether it be insomnia, arthritis, the list goes on, the benefits are overwhelming. I have been taking CBD oil for about a year now, actually over a year, and the benefits are just, it's changed my life in so many ways, and that's why I'm a huge advocate of CBD Pure. You can check it out on goodnesschick.com, Goodness Chick storefront. If you've kind of been on the fence, check it out. It is not addictive. It is not mind altering, and it is legal in the U.S. Different pockets of the world, I know. It is up in the air. In the United States, it is legal. Check it out, goodnesschick.com storefront. Today, so excited. It's funny how life works. To have today's guest, Beth Anne Fletcher. We met a few months ago at the mental health conference, bloggers conference in London. Beth Anne, I want to welcome you here today.
Hi, how you doing?
I am well. I'm really excited to have you here. You are an award-nominated blogger on food, fashion, and life, really. I've been following you the past few months, and so much of what you write about, what you put on Instagram in terms of with your photography is so real. And so I just think beautifully painted, and I wanted to have you on the show today to talk a little bit about, really, you're just so transparent. I know one of the things you describe on your page is, you are in eating disorder recovery. You call yourself an autism mama, a photographer, just, we'll say granola hippie chick, if you will. And I've been really, really impressed with you. If I were to say in the world of blogging, what kind of pulled you into blogging to begin with?
I've always loved writing. I've always known that I'm a creative person. Obviously, I've been doing photography for quite a while now too. And initially, I was using photography as a kind of therapeutic outlet, I guess, whilst I've been in treatment for my eating disorder. And initially, when I thought about blogging, I guess I put it off for so long because I didn't really feel like I had anything to say that fit into a certain niche. Now I feel like I could tick several boxes because obviously as I've gone through life, lots of things have happened. And I kind of just started off wanting to write about travel. But obviously having a son who has autism puts a different shift on traveling for a start. And then as I started to write about my experiences with mental health and recovery and eating disorders, I found that I was getting so much positive feedback for that I don't know, I kind of felt it was a disservice to myself and to other people to only write about one thing. And if my experiences across the board of all these different things could help somebody else, then maybe that was where I should put my focus. So not only does it sort of help me with my own journey, my own recovery, but it's unbelievable to know that it helps other people. I still struggle sometimes to wrap my mind around that. But it's definitely something that helps me. It's definitely something I would put down in maybe the self-care bracket, what I do. And I love it. I never really sort of realized when I started it as a travel blog that I would end up falling back in love with writing. And as you say, kind of trying to share something genuine in a world where social media is so often blamed for being, snippets of lives that aren't real. And I've done a lot of thinking about that and research into, how these people and bloggers who are putting out these snippets of this perfect life, how it affects people and their self-esteem. And I wanted to distance myself from that as much as possible, I suppose, by documenting the down days and the tough days and, the times when Charlie's having a tantrum over something. I think sharing that sort of real experience helps you to connect with people on an actual real level. And the more I sort of started doing that, the more feedback I was getting that that's what people wanted from my blog and my social media. So that's kind of what I guess I've stuck with. And it seems to be working. So that's what I'm going with.
And you're good at it. I do. I think there's so much shallowness and so much kind of false persona that's conveyed by so many people, not all people. And I'll tell you, the first time I hopped on your Instagram account, the first time I went to your website, iambethanne.com, I was really blown away by how real and how brave you are, and how I don't know how anyone could not connect to what you're writing. It's kind of like you allow people into your mind and your heart in a way that very few people have the courage to do. And so, I have not ever struggled with an eating disorder. I believe we all have our different vices and struggles in life, but reading your words, you have a piece of chocolate cake that you've taken a picture of, and you talk about, well, this is beautiful, but how you struggle. And I think, man, we need more of that, because I believe that there's many people that unless they see you having some kind of impairment or something visible, they can't connect a struggle. Am I correct? Whether that be autism, whether that be an eating disorder, whether that anything. And I think you bring so much weight to that. I really do, where it's allowing people to just feel not just heard, but like you're teaching and educating people.
I think especially with the eating disorders, because technically I was never, even at my lowest weight, I was never deemed to be underweight for my height. And obviously BMI is something that people talk about a lot in eating disorders, and how it needs to be more than just a BMI for a diagnosis. And I think what you're saying is true, because people didn't necessarily perceive me as being ill. And obviously before I came out to talk about it, it was a very secretive illness, and I didn't want people to know. So you can definitely, and as well, I guess, because I was a bigger person to begin with, and when I lost weight initially very quickly, because people saw weight loss, they congratulated me and wanted to know how I had done it. And for me, this only fed my disorder, because for me it was sort of validation that what I was doing was needed in the first place, and that I looked better as I was getting more and more into the eating disorder. And it was only, I suppose, when I started to talk about it, and the actual sort of what comes with an eating disorder isn't just how you look. Obviously, when I went into treatment, my brain was severely malnourished. So I was unable to function as an adult, as a mother, as someone running a business. It had got to the point where my heart rate had slowed. Like inside, I was really not doing well. But on the outside, I still looked okay. And I think this is another thing that ties in with the social media of like portraying that we are okay even when we're not. And once I realized that that's damaging actually to other people, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be more open, and it took a while, but I think what people are afraid to show is this vulnerability. And actually it's a beautiful thing, because it is what makes us who we are, and no one is perfect. Nobody leads a perfect life. And I think just by telling people, like we've all heard it, it's okay not to be okay. It really is. And until you're sort of willing to show that vulnerability, people will never maybe necessarily know that you need help or you need somebody to talk to. And just by opening that channel of communication with other people, it has changed my life and the way I look at things completely. So I definitely think it's invisible. Like a lot of mental health problems, they can be invisible and they can be overlooked. And people don't want to talk about it. Like I said, an eating disorder is a very secretive thing. I didn't want people to know. And I ummed and ahed about sharing it the very first time I spoke about it, but actually it's brought about nothing but good things. Nothing bad has come of it. Whereas obviously keeping it to myself and slowly destroying myself was only going to end badly. So whilst I definitely faced not criticism, but from my very close family and friends, they struggled initially with me being so open. And they warned me about, putting it out there for people and things that I might receive, like negative feedback, etc., which I haven't actually had. But I can see that they were only doing that out of love for me, because they felt it was a private issue for me and my family. which I understand. But I think I just remember being at a point where I couldn't see a way out, and I'd lost all sense of who I was because, like I say, the brain is malnourished, so it isn't functioning properly. And I just felt so alone. And this was tied in with the autism diagnosis too, because I just didn't know what to do when I was waiting for Charlie to be diagnosed with autism. And I felt helpless and hopeless. So the two definitely tie in together.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what I don't want is for anyone else to ever have to feel that way, that they are alone in something. So if they happen to stumble across a story that I've written about Charlie's autism or something that I've written about my recovery, and they find even the smallest glimmer of hope in that, then that for me is worth everything, because I would never want anybody to feel how I felt at various points in my journey. And that's, yeah, I just think that's worth taking a risk that maybe you'll get some negative feedback. If you can help somebody, like genuinely help somebody through something, when they can't see a light at the end of the tunnel, then that for me is everything.
Mm-hmm. And I say good on you for that. I think there's too many people that feel like they're battling through their challenges alone, and that they're the only one, whether it be, an eating disorder or whatever form of addiction, with you, raising your son with autism and being able to feel like, oh my gosh, somebody else gets me. I think that's the beautiful kind of aspect of social media. And you absolutely do that. And I know I've read some of your articles, and one in particular about you guys going to Sardinia and how you talked about like the power of communication. And when we let people know, what our needs are, letting people know what is actually going on, how it can make it, and obviously I wasn't there with you, making the situation so much easier. I don't know if that's the right word, but it enlightened me and it educated me. And I feel like I think there's power when we're vulnerable, because I think it not only empowers us, but it allows other people around us. Like, we have this whole false persona, so many of us, this pressure of what we're supposed to be. And so many of us are just hurting or going through our own battles. I mean, would you agree? And times where we're tired.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm so tired most of the time. And, it's not a physical thing, that although I've been tired through being physically tired, but like emotionally, just from overthinking things also. And that's, I guess, where the self-care element comes in. You recognize and you need to step back and take some, and also, and like we've just said, vulnerability is what makes us human. It's what makes us who we are. And it's not, you shouldn't be embarrassed or ashamed to have to say, this is what I need right now. It's not selfish. It's self-love is, on Valentine's Day when we're recording this, self-love is the best kind of it.
Yes. Yeah. So, but it is, I mean, there's so much, like, do you have a significant other or this, that it takes someone else to make you whole. And I feel like that's so off base until we learn to love ourselves with all of our flaws, with all of our, our everybody has them, our challenges. I think the greatest gift you can give yourself is learning how to love yourself. And that I believe takes time, but it's when we allow ourselves, I do think, to be vulnerable, kind of putting all the cards on the table. This is who I am. And that doesn't always have to be to the general public, but this is who I am, and learning to love yourself with all of that. And when you do, I think it's such a fantastic thing. And this being Valentine's Day, where it's not about someone else, it's about me. It's about learning to love you. I think that's just a spectacular thing. I really do. And if I were to ask you this, I'm going to kind of go back to the things that we don't see. What have you learned most in the past, we'll say 8 years? Okay. I know Charlie's 8 years old, about other people when it comes to people not always knowing what's on your plate. And what would you suggest to somebody who's listening to this, who might have a whole lot on their plate that people don't see? What would you say to that person?
I think there's a couple of things. The first thing being that you can't control how other people will ever react or choose to react to anything that they see or do, or you do. But you can choose how you react to that. So if someone, for example, I'll give like when Charlie was much younger, because he looks physically able, there's nothing wrong with him physically, we would go out and people would wonder why he was still in a pushchair. It wasn't that he couldn't walk, it's just that he would run off. And people would stare, and sometimes they would say things, and it would hurt my feelings a lot. And then I realized that actually they make no difference to my life or to Charlie's life. And me being upset about how somebody perceives us, whether they perceive me as being a bad parent or whatever, makes no difference to the rest of my life. And it takes a long time to be able to do this, but I have been able to detach myself from other people's opinions, and to only focus on how I feel about it. And the best thing to do is just go, well, you know, they're obviously don't understand what's happening here. If they wanted to ask and have a conversation, I'm willing to have a dialogue with anybody about anything. But if they want to make a judgment, then that says way more about them than it does about me or Charlie, who is the most innocent and beautiful child you would ever wish to meet. And I think the best thing is to let go of other people's opinions. And it is really hard. I say it like it's an easy thing to do. It's not. It's really difficult. But when you get to that point, it's so freeing. And it's, you know, it's a beautiful thing. But the other thing is to just talk to people. Like you say, when we were in Sardinia, it was Charlie's first proper holiday in a really, really long time, since his diagnosis anyway. And I was worried maybe that people would think he was, I don't know, naughty or weird or whatever the words people choose sometimes. But when people watched him and they asked me questions, it was amazing how accepting then they were once I explained, you know, what the scenario was or what was happening or why he wanted to touch this person's skin, etc. But people were amazing. And I think that sometimes we don't give people the benefit of the doubt, like, you know, that they are going to understand if they just ask. You know, 8 years ago, I knew nothing about autism. Why would I have? And I was probably really ignorant too. But had I engaged in a conversation with somebody like me, I would have probably been thankful that I had the opportunity to learn something. And, you know, the people that I've been able to reach, there's a person on Twitter who followed our journey from sort of at the beginning, knew nothing about autism. And now he's always saying how thankful he is that he found us, because now when he sees kids out and about and he thinks, oh yeah, they've probably got ASD or something, he's way more compassionate and he's way more understanding. And he sends me like food, cookies and stuff from wherever he goes traveling. So I love him. But it's incredible how just those initial conversations have changed his perception of things. So I think sometimes we just don't give people, like I say, enough benefit of the doubt to that they can learn, they can change. It's just that maybe they aren't necessarily educated or they don't know anything about it. But if they're willing to learn, then brilliant. Talk to as many people as possible. And that can be about the autism, that can be about a mental health problem. Just open up and talk. And people are, most of the time, people are wonderful, more so than they aren't, if that makes sense.
Right. No, I think it makes sense. And I think it really comes down to kindness. And I think sometimes, you know, all of us to some extent have been guilty at one time or another of judging a book by its cover, if you will. And I do believe everybody is their own novel. And I think the more we learn about whatever it is, the better off we are. You know, I think about I have a friend of mine who has CF. And I remember, you know, having a conversation where, and just being kind of like in awe, thinking, I never thought of things that way, where, you know, I go to the grocery store and I pull in, you know, with my disabled sticker and, you know, somebody will approach me because I look fine. Well, they don't know that I have 2 oxygen tanks in the back of my car and can hardly get to, you know, the grocery store. And it just, until we walk in someone else's shoes, I think empathy and kindness just resonates so far because we don't know. And whatever I believe, you know, might be on the tip of our tongue, I say, keep it there. And it's about asking questions, and it's about it, you know, like why is someone acting this way? Or maybe you just, you know, they're having an off day. We're all human. And so I do kind of bringing it back to your blog and bringing it back to your photography. I want to say, first of all, just thank you, you know, and to those of you guys who are listening, I really encourage you to hop on, and I'm going to have links below in the notes. onto iambethanne.com as well as her Instagram account. When I tell you, I have been following you since the day we met at the mental health conference, and I do believe things happen for a reason. And I really have fallen in love with the beauty of your photography and your vulnerability. And I feel like I know you and your son. I'm like, hey, another picture of Charlie. And it's a beautiful thing, but it's so wonderful when you see social media being used to do good things. And so, with whatever you talk about, your openness, I just say thank you for that, because really, and you have all these descriptions of what you do, which is numerous, and you wear so many different hats, but you really are, if you've ever thought about this, like you're a mental health advocate. You are advocating for so many people. And I love reading your stuff. I love reading your blog. And I say from the bottom of my heart, keep going, you're changing the world, girl, I think about that. And for those of you guys that are listening, follow her on Instagram. I mean, beautiful, beautiful artwork. I wish I could take, photos like you. I take a picture, I'm like, this is my dinner, and it has a, rice with a little flour on top. And your stuff everything has a story. And they always say, a picture has 1,000 words. Yours really have 1,000,000. And I say, keep going. And for, those that are listening and feeling, what, man, we have all been guilty, whether we admit it or not, of making judgments about people before we really know what's going on. And for many of you listening, you've been on the receiving end of that, where maybe you feel tired. Maybe you feel like, what, I'm hoping that today's interview kind of put some wind in your sails, that we're not alone. And you know what, we're all fighting a fight, but we don't need to be doing it by ourselves. And if you're looking for a little bit of wind in your sails, check out Beth Anne's website, check out her Instagram. I follow you on Twitter, girl. And, I want to thank you for being here today. Thank you for your insight, your passion, and keep changing the world over there, my friend.
I'm going to keep trying, because, what else am I going to do?
What else? You're rocking out. You're rocking out. I'm going to ask you one more question before we leave.
Sure.
So what is it that you would tell yourself, that you know now that you didn't know 10 years ago?
Okay. I think about this all the time. I would tell myself, first of all, to be patient with myself, because patience is one of the greatest things. And to be fair, I'm not generally a patient person, but I think I'm 35 now. I just turned 35. So when I was 25, I probably thought I had it all figured out. Like, yeah, this is my life and everything's cool. But things happen and things change. And the last 10 years, I have been through some of the most difficult and frightening things. And I guess there's been times where I thought I wasn't going to get out of it, seriously. And what I would say to myself is just be patient and breathe and give yourself the time that you need, because whilst you can be in that position where you really think there is nothing better for me, nothing is going to improve this situation, and this is kind of I'm never going to be happy. You can be, and it sounds totally cliche, but you need to give yourself the time to heal, because things don't sort of, brush it off as, oh, well, bad things happen to everybody. If something horrible is happening to you, then it's completely valid, and you need time to work through it, and you need to just give yourself that time and truly believe that even if you're in the depths of darkness and despair and you can't see your way out, if you don't try and if you don't give yourself that time, you will never know. Mm-hmm. And there is so much life to live. And I guess in a completely another cliche, I'm hungry for life now, whereas before I wasn't. And that ties in with eating disorder, of course. Like, I now have a desire to try and make things better for me and for Charlie and my family and my friends. And I didn't necessarily have it then, but I have it now. But if I'd given up, I would never have known. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm trying to say. So I think you just have to give yourself time and trust that you can make things better. You can make things better. It's not going to be from anybody else. It's going to be from you.
Yeah.
And that's where the power is. It's in you.
Yeah. That's a beautiful thing. I like that. And patience is tough, but things will get better. And
yeah, well, I guess Charlie's taught me patience because, I waited 4 years to hear him speak. So, yeah, he's mine for a reason, I guess.
Yes,
because I needed to.
Yeah. Beautiful gift, man. Beautiful gift. That's what I think our kids definitely, I've learned patience on a whole different level, having a 3.5-year-old. Deep breathing exercises. But I want to say thank you, my friend, so much. I know you're coming to us from the United Kingdom. I'm here in Bali, Indonesia. I want to say thank you for tuning in to all my friends. Peace, love, and goodness. If you enjoyed today's show, I encourage you to visit goodnesschick.com and sign up for my newsletter, providing insights and encouragement just for you. Thanks for listening, my friends.